What's your favorite method on finishing hems on garments? And have you ever wondered how to create that invisible stitches on the hems of store-bought garments? Using the Brother NV180, let's create a beautiful blind hem stitch that professionals do. That's today's topic on Sewing Saturday. As a sewing beginner, we sometimes get confused with so many tips and tutorials online. And I'm glad to introduce you to our newest sewing video series featuring the easiest tips and tricks that I wish I learned when I started sewing. It's Julius again from Sew It's Your Style, and welcome to Sewing Saturday, where we teach you how to become a better sewer. From tips and tricks, all the way to making your very first project. Join us today as we explore the basics of sewing. An invisibly stitched hem is achieved using the blind hem stitch on most sewing machines. And the Brother NV180 is no exception to making this fabulous stitching. A blind hem stitch is exactly what it sounds like. A hem stitch that you can barely see. It's perfect for coverings, the hem of a garment, or anything that you need a clean, finished edge. Once you understand the process, you will find that the blind hem stitch is one of the easiest stitch to do on your sewing machine. And it gives your garments or your projects a store-bought look. I know we don't want our projects to be looking homemade, but for others, it could be what they're trying to achieve. And there is nothing wrong with that. There is no standard rules when it comes to sewing. I'm pretty sure. So the blind hem stitch looks like this. You can barely see the stitching from the outside, while the inside looks more like rows of zigzag stitches. To achieve this, it is highly important that you press the hems of your garments before sewing in the blind hem stitch. In addition, the blind hem stitch is sewn using a blind hem foot. This comes standard in all Brother sewing machines. What's special about this foot? It has a metal guide in the center that helps as the fabric grooves along when sewing. Let me show you on a scrap piece of fabric how the blind hem foot works. To prepare the fabric, with the fabric wrong side up, measure about 1/2 inch from the raw edge of the fabric. This will depend on your project. This is then pressed with an iron. The edge is then folded once more to cover the raw edge. Once this is done, the final step before sewing in the blind hem stitch is to fold the fabric to the outside, leaving about 1/4 inch of overhang. This bit of overhang will help in securing the hem edge to the fabric. The goal here is to create the tiniest stitch possible to achieve that invisible look. Next is to attach the blind hem foot onto the machine. Most of Brother's presser feet are snap-on, which means more time to sew and less hassle of removing and reattaching parts. Then select the blind hem stitching on the machine. The stitch is a combination of zigzag and tiny straight stitches. Position the fabric with the folded edge along the metal guide. The overhang should lie to the right of the metal guide, whereas the rest of the garment should be on the left. Lower the presser foot and start sewing. It is important to go slow on this process to fully achieve that invisible stitches. The metal guide will help in making sure that the fabric is being sewn in a straight line, as well as to ensure that the rest of the garment only gets sewn with tiny stitches. Once done, press the thread cutter button, raise the presser foot, and remove the fabric. The last step is to give the hem a final press. The blind hem stitch creates rows of tiny stitches on the outside of the garment while making sure that the hem edge is well secured on the inside. A matching thread will work wondrously as it will blend in with the fabric. So that's how easy it is to use the blind hem foot. No fuss, no complicated folding, and the installation of the foot is so easy. You can use the blind hem stitch on most of your woven garments, as well as your knits or your stretch fabrics. However, when sewing with stretch fabrics, it is highly recommended to starch the hem edge of the garment, or even use a hem tape to avoid distortion when sewing. I hope that you learned how to create those beautiful invisible stitches with the Brother NV180's blind hem stitch function. This method also applies on any Brother sewing machine that has a blind hem stitch. And remember, you can use this stitch on any of your projects that requires a clean finished edge. That's it for now, and until then, I will see you in the next episode of Sewing Saturday.